والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. All praise due to Allah, and His blessings and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family and his followers until the Day of Judgment. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to one of your new episodes in your program, The Robe That Binds Us. Last episode, we talked about the titles and the names and labels that the people of the Sunnah and the people who follow the Jama'ah, or the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or the true followers of the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to be called with, or even they used it to describe themselves with it. But here, there is a very important point to mention and related to this issue. One, these names and titles never meant to be a tool to divide the ummah, to exclude certain people out from the circle of the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It never been used as a way to take out from the ummah of Islam some true and sincere followers to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as it might be used sometimes in the history or even in this modern days, that people use this to label certain group and to exclude others. I believe this is not the way the early Muslims, scholars and the early Muslim generation used to, or this is not the way they understood the meaning and the uniqueness of these names and titles. These names and titles meant to identify and to explain the nature of those people, to identify and to explain the belief of those people, that they believe in the Sunnah, that they believe in the concept of Jama'ah and the unity and the support and the obedience to the Muslim rulers, and not to break the Muslim ummah and to fight one another or to invent something in the religion which can harm this ummah or cause that people will disagree on these new invented matters. So these names and titles meant to identify the people who believe in the truth, not to exclude others or not to be taken as a way to classify this ummah in a way which can contradict the meaning of unity. You might ask a question: why they use these names? Why we need to use these names? Or do we need to use them today? And if not, why they've been used in the past, these names? This might be a question you raise. Isn't it enough to call ourselves Muslims and that's it? Mu'min and that's it? First of all, we have to understand that titles and names something appeared even in the Prophet ﷺ's time. That Muslims used another title beside just being a Muslim, or being a mu'min, or being a muttaqi, such as al-muhajirin and al-ansar. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself used these terminologies to describe the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. But these titles never ever divided the Muslim community during the Prophet ﷺ's times. People used to be recognized with titles like, he is Habashi, or she is from Medina, or he is from Mecca, she is from Egypt, Egyptian, or Basri, or Iraqi, or Yemeni, etc. So these titles and been exist in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and after the Prophet ﷺ's time as well. So this is not something new. But these names, which has been used through the history of Islam, unlike the name which is given by the Quran and by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These names and titles may carry different connotations and meanings from one time to another. And the best example, you remember in last episode I said, and sometimes in the history of Islam, they used to call those who follow the Sunnah Hanbali. And this terminology, Hanbali, later on became a title for those who follow the school of thought of, or the school of fiqh, and certain people who follow Imam Ahmad rahimahullah in his opinions, or those scholars who came after the students of Imam Ahmad, who established a madhab or a school of thought called the Hanbali madhab. As we have the Shafi'i, the Maliki, the Hanafi. But in one time in the history, Hanbali never meant to be a title for those who follow Imam Ahmad in the fiqh issue. It always it's been used to refer to those who follow Imam Ahmad in the matters of aqeedah, when he refuted the concept of خلق al-Quran, that al-Quran was created. Also, Ahl al-Hadith, another good example. Ahl al-Hadith today, in recent days for example, you will see it in the subcontinent, been used to be the Hanafi and the Ahl al-Hadith. The people who follow Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and Ahl al-Hadith, the people who follow the Hadith. As if there is a contradiction between following the Hadith and follow the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa. And that's not true, because Imam Abu Hanifa, among the people of Hadith, because he believed in the Hadith, he based his fiqh, his opinions on the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So Imam Abu Hanifa among Ahl al-Hadith. But later on, this terminology, Ahl al-Hadith or Ahl al-Athar, been a terminology used to describe those who are involved in studying the science of Hadith. Not like the way it's been used in the early time, those who accept the Hadith. No, it became a title for those who are a specialist in the science of the Hadith. They know about the narrators, they know about the history of the narrator, the authenticity of the narrations, and so on. But later on, this is now the way it's been used. But before, it used to refer to those who accept the Hadith, the Sunnah as a source of religion. So you see, these titles and names, it might change from one century to another, from one time to another. That's why there are certain rules we need to understand and to learn about